Well, hello everyone, and hello little fella, little Romeo. I know. Listen, I gotta have you appear for the camera because you're such a special person to me. Okay? I know it's almost dinner time here for you, but I just want to say I love you and happy birthday. This little guy just turned 5 years old in cat years the other day. He's only 4 years less than me, though, in people years. You are 36. That's hard to believe. 36 years old. Yeah. I don't know. You kind of act older, you kind of act younger. You're very lazy, even for a cat. I mean, cats are not really as lazy as their reputation is. They just are efficient. They don't move around unless they need to. You got to stay with me for another minute here. I'm talking about you. But he's very baby-like, right? You're just a baby. That's all you are. You're just a baby. We love cats for many reasons. They're so beautiful, so spontaneous, so mysterious. But they're also approximately baby size. They never grow up. They never stop being little babies. Yeah, we love you. We love you very much. You're not the friendliest cat in the world, but you are exactly who you need to be. And you let me snuggle you as much as I want to, right? Let's see. Yeah, you're purring. You're a happy little beast, mostly, aren't you? A little nervous, too. A little wild. We love you very much. You want to stick around? I know dinner is coming up very soon. There you go. You want to just sit right there? It's not much of a lap cat. I'm sorry. Okay. Let you go. All right, so in the background, I have some music I want to mention real quick because I'm really into crediting sources. Whenever I talk about something, I credit the source. If I'm using some other person's idea, I'm always crediting the source. So I want to do that right now with the music. This is a CD by Robert Rich and Steve Roach. Says it the other way on here. Steve Roach and Robert Rich. And the title is called Soma. And it happens to be one of my favorite albums of all time. I would put it in the ambient category, I guess. Very tribal. Very good stuff. Really, really cool. So I don't know how well you hear it, but check that album out. It was made in 1996. I don't think there's been a better ambient album since then. Or tribal, whatever you want to call it. Next here I have this album. It's Medeski, Martin, and Wood. And this album is called End of the World Party. I think it came out around 2004, 5 or something. I guess I could just look. 2004, yes. Anyhow, it's a trio. And they have some really funky, cool art here. Nicely done album. And I had a special memory of hanging out backstage with them, drinking tequila. In honor of them, how about I just pour myself a little bit of whiskey while I'm talking to you? Whiskey. Okay, that's better. I got a lot of energy in my body, and so whatever the hell I got to do to deal with it, I'm going to do it. Right, Romeo? Okay, so next one here. This is Stevie Ray Vaughan. I just blinked on the name for a second. This is his album, In Step. I would say it's equally as important as Texas Flood, which is his famous one with Pride and Joy, which is one of the first CDs first songs that I ever learned when I was playing electric guitar. Take that back, that's not exactly true. I don't want to edit that out though, I want to just keep going. So, it was the first blues song I ever learned. First real blues song. Shut up. Okay, alright. Too many voices competing for one mouth here. Kaja Nin, right here. This is a CD called Ya. And this is an amazing album. As far as I know, it's the only one she has made. And there was a fella on here named, see if I can find his name somewhere, Nicholas Fismet. One of those unsung heroes probably of a lot of people's music that you don't hear of too often, but he played with Trilok Gurtu on another fantastic album. And it seems like he's one of those people that whenever he's involved, it's going to be amazing. So the first 3 songs on here, I think he co-wrote, and you ought to buy this album just for those 3 songs. Last one is Mike Stern, who happens to be one of my favorite guitar players. And this one is called Between the Lines. Read Between the Lines, remember that one? So, fantastic album. He wails on this album right here. It's kind of a jazz guitarist, but all over the place. So, anyhow, that's show and tell. Oh, I guess more importantly, you're wondering what the hell is this thing behind me right here. Glad I noticed that. Okay, just got a message there. So, this right here was my idea for a campaign a couple years ago for the 2017 election. Clearly, it never manifested. Well, you wouldn't know that. It probably wouldn't have made enough ripples in order to get to wherever you are. But anyhow, I was serious about it. I made this megaphone, or I got this megaphone right here, which has. I guess I do it all at the same time. So if I can talk to it at the same time, can I talk to it? Yep, I can do it all at the same time. Woo, boy, that's really annoying. Okay, there goes the cat. So anyhow, I bought that and I made that special for the election, but it never took off. I broke my leg, I think, maybe a week or two after I made this, so maybe God was saying, okay, he's really actually going to go through with this idea. Okay, we got to get a message to him quick here, and I probably didn't receive it, so I broke my leg at a frickin' amusement park, landing in some plastic balls, out of all things. I was listening to a man talk the other day, and he said he had a friend who tried to commit suicide jumping out of the 8th story of a building. And that 3 months later, he came hobbling into his office. It's like, shit, I fell into a ball pit. I mean, it was literally like that far. And I broke my leg. Twisted it. Spiral fracture. Twisted the tibia, broke the fibula. Bad. Damaged a lot of nerves in the process. And it was pretty friggin' awful. Now, what really sucked about that was 2 weeks later, after I ran out of pain medication, the electrocution sensations came back into my body with a vengeance. Now, I want to talk about this today because I've been struggling with this for many years. It does make it a little overwhelming and hard to talk, and sometimes it actually caused my jaw to do this, which is why I misspeak sometimes. At nighttime, usually my jaw is like that because there's so much electricity in my body. And last time I was at the dentist, he asked me if I drank a lot of soda. I was like, no. I drink a lot of whiskey, but not a lot of soda. No, I'm kidding. I don't drink whiskey except for occasions like this. Because he was wondering why my teeth were worn down. So I have a mouth guard. I usually forget to sleep with it, but it's because the electric sensations in my body are so strong it causes my jaw to clamp down at nighttime. And so I usually wake up with a clamped jaw. So at the beginning of my journey 20 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I started to get these really intense headaches. Nothing like I'd have ever experienced before. And they were extremely stressful, but it perfectly coincided with the way my mind was beginning to change, beginning to think. And anyhow, the last 20 years, this electricity has been amping up, with it really starting to progress in 2011, 2012, and 2013 is the time that I finally said, the hell with this. Everything in my life is falling apart. I've got to stop this. And it got so painful and so scary that I went to the emergency room to deal with it. That right there was just an overload. So much energy in the body I can barely even tolerate it. So I just kind of blank out for a second. It's a kind of a shitty thing when you're talking and you forget about what you're saying because you kind of have to space out in order to deal with the current in your body. Plus, there's like 100 different archangels that are trying to use my brain and my mouth at the same time, and it just doesn't work. I try to keep saying one of you at a time, okay? I only have one mouth. It doesn't work the way it does up there. You only get to speak one at a time through me. So, did you know that archangel sounded like this? I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't know that God was so normal in his mode of communication. So, back up to 2013, that's when the electrocution sensations became so bad that it sent me to the emergency room. And I stopped believing that this was divine. I believed that I had somehow gone down a very, very bad road and ended up in the depths of hell pretty much. But over the last 5 years, I've gotten more and more confirmation that that is not the case. Now, sometimes I thought that I was getting attacked by satellites sending a beam at me or something, and I was trying to rationalize all this, and I was like, well, why, if this is really divine, could it be so painful? But it wasn't until the night of November 1st of this year that I got full confirmation of who I was, and that this really was a divine process, and that what I was going through was a necessary process in order for me to know fully who I was, and in order to fully embody the teachings. And this had no precedent whatsoever, not that I can think of. I've heard about Kundalini syndrome and Kundalini awakenings getting pretty bad, but I never had really read anything about these electrocution sensations being so severe. Now, there's some other people out there that have somewhat of the same thing, but a much, much lesser degree than I do. So I was never really getting a whole lot of confirmation. And typically, if you go online and if you hear what other people are talking about, then and you get some confirmation for what you're going through, it's like, okay, I can live with this. And we're very helpful for one another in that respect. It's like, oh, he's going through this. Okay, I'm not all alone in this, which has been really helpful for, I think, most of us on this path. I don't know what most of us would have done to not go crazy if we didn't know other people were going through the same thing. But it was the night of November 1st, and I put this in my blog. It's somewhere in the November posts about what happened on that night of November 1st. And it's very difficult for me to talk about it because it's a different state of mind that I was in when I was going through this than this ordinary state of mind. Plus, it's pretty much just difficult to talk in general right now. So I don't know if I could do it justice, but anyhow, suffice it to say, on that night of November the 1st, I was left with no doubts anymore as to who I was. And the communication up until that period of time that I was receiving was very strong. And there's almost an inextricable link between the electricity, the clamp on the head, with the communication. You feel that right there on your crown chakra. It's pretty damn noticeable. If you've been in this for a while, you would know what I'm talking about. But anyhow, that night I went into the deepest fear that I've ever experienced, and it gave me the confirmation that was necessary that this was a divine process. You were not being attacked. Well, I was getting attacked at the same time that night. A lot of different things were happening, but yes, this was related to communication and your realization of becoming a teacher here on this planet. And so it was that night that really sealed for me, confirmed for me, all of the ideas that I had about who I was and what my role was to be on this planet. As powerful as it was, I got to just share with you real quickly that yesterday the communication was cut off somehow. I went to see the movie Aquaman, and then we went out to eat at the Olive Garden afterwards. I got a horrible, horrible stomachache afterwards. And that was pretty much the same time that the communication really shut itself down. And yesterday was a very, very dark day because when the communication shuts down, then I'm pretty much back in this world entirely, and I forget who I am temporarily. And that, as good as it is to be kind of cut off from the extreme anxiety of this communication and the overwhelming electricity in my body, today when it was restored, I was like, this is so much better. It's so much better to be anxious, scared, and overwhelmed with all this electricity than to feel like I'm just a mortal flesh body human being, because that's the worst damn thing in the world. I'm going to keep making these videos today because I got to catch up, and I'll be back in a second.